Warning, the following podcast contains irreverent humor, uneducated and exceptionally nerdy opinions, potential cursing, and plenty of love for the prequels. If any of the preceding offends you, please turn off your computer immediately, and may the Force be with you.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate, featuring your hosts, JT. Maybe that's who R2 saves. R2 has, of all the myriad tools that he has in his chest, he's got a dent puller. AJ.
I'll take foods you can snort for 200, Alex.
Steve.
Ray and Finn are sitting on Grandpa Han's lap. Let me tell you guys what happened. Force the Jedis, it's all crap.
On this week's episode of the Nerf Herder Council, we touch on a very specific internet rumor regarding Rey's family lineage. We talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi's character arc, and fan theories relating to Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
This is the Nerf Herder Council.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I'm your host, JT. With me, as always, is my co-host, AJ, and my other co-host, Steve. You can find us on Twitter at DogPoundJedi, at DrakeAdams579, and at JSteve1005. Figured I would start out our second episode kind of catching up with you guys and seeing exactly how many times we've all now been to the theater and caught episode 7. For me, I'm at viewing number 6. I have viewing number 7 scheduled for a week from now, and I may see it again somewhere in that time, so I might be up to as high as 8 or 9. What about you?
Not bad,
AJ?
not bad. I'm up to 5 now. I've seen it 2 more times since our last recording. The best part about that is that the most recent time since the last recording that I saw it with was actually with our father, who I think might have last gone to a movie theater somewhere during the Clinton administration.
That's probably true.
So, yeah, we were talking about how this movie pulls in all audiences, and it's really true. We've gotten both our 73-year-old mother and our 68-year-old father both to go to separate showings now, so I think it's pretty cool.
Well, if that doesn't show that they're hitting their goal in terms of trying to get to as many different generations and types of movie-going person as possible, I would say that's it right there. So.
Yeah, that's one thing about having those legacy characters in there is it's people that older generations can actually identify with. You can trot out Star Wars all you want, but if it doesn't have Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher in there, they're going to go like, that's not mine. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to pay attention to that.
Right?
But the best part is, I mean, you know what a curmudgeon our father is. This dude goes into the theater. Step 1, he's blown away by the power leather recliners that AMC Theaters has.
It took him to AMC, did you?
Which,
all right.
I'm such an elitist now since they came out with those. I hate going to any other theater because that is just the way to watch a movie.
Yeah, it does kick ass. It does.
And the reserved seating is awesome. I mean, that was the best part about our premiere night seats was that we bought them weeks in advance and knew exactly where we were sitting. We didn't have to go like 3 hours in advance and fight for a spot in the very front of the theater or whatever was left. We could get a group of, 10 of us going?
It was 10 of us, yeah.
Yeah, we had 10 people, and we knew exactly where we were going to sit. We didn't have to fight for space or anything. It was awesome.
It definitely was. I love the reserved aspect of it as well for that exact reason. As fun as it was back in 2005 when we saw the premiere of Episode 3, to stand outside with everybody dressed in their Stormtrooper armor and all the 501st and all that goofy stuff going on. The lines at that thing were ridiculous, and I just remember how lucky we were that we got there early enough to get a spot right in the middle. And this time we could, we went over to Rockneys and, we all had beers and drinks and stuff and got some food and kind of lollygagged around and then meandered over to the theater and, just plopped down, and it was cool, man. So
isn't it great having awesome seats when you show up 5 minutes before the movie starts?
I know. It's like the most helpful thing ever. I mean, especially, we got lucky with our weather at that time, but it was, late December, which where we're at in Cleveland, Ohio, that could have easily been, like it is right now outside, like 15 degrees, 10 degrees, and waiting in line through that. Oh, it could have been horrible.
Which would have just made the seating that much better that we could have walked in 5 minutes before the movie.
Right? So how many times have you seen the movie in the theater now, Steve?
3. And I'm glad you emphasized in the theater because the number is higher than that, but...
we don't know what you're talking about there, Steve. There's no other way to see the movie right now.
Or should we say no habla piracy?
Hey, I didn't do it. I didn't ask for it to pop into my house. It just was there one day. And I would be less than a man if I didn't pop the thing in and watch it 2 or 3 times since then.
I can't blame you for watching it. You said it's a crappy quality. Doesn't it bother you that it looks like garbage?
I watched the prequels.
Coming out swinging.
See, that's a whole that is a whole nother topic for a whole nother podcast. As I say in the intro, a whole lot of love for the prequels, and that's gonna definitely be coming from my microphone. But we'll save that for another podcast.
You lobbed up the softball. I just hit it.
Well, hey, You know I'm a prequel apologist, man. I love them.
And know I'm not going to skip an easy joke either. So even though I like the prequels, I couldn't let that one fly by me.
And there's plenty of apologies to be made for the prequels. So there you go.
Oh boy, here we go with this crap again. Well, I wanted to start off today's show by bringing something to the table that I read online the other day, which I had not considered, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion on it because I think it has the potential to take episode 8 in a really original and a very cool direction. And what I read was a fan theory based around who Rey actually is. And I think that pretty much...
Do we need to put a spoiler alert on this?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
the movie has been out way too long now.
Yeah, the movie's been out way too long, and plus, considering this is, something where, they haven't said this yet, it's just speculation. It's not really a spoiler. So... it's not factual. It's not set in stone. But
rumor alert.
Yeah, I think we can agree that the general consensus right now is that Rey is a Skywalker. Is it? You guys, is it safe to say that everyone pretty much is thinking that Rey is probably going to end up being a Skywalker? Is that
probably? I do feel like that's probably where they're going to go with it. I think there's a better fan theory out there saying that she's in the Kenobi bloodline.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
I do think they're going to take the easy way out and put her in the Skywalker bloodline.
Have you heard? Have you read this first of all? That she's that there's that fan theory saying that she's actually like the granddaughter of Obi-Wan.
Now that I know where you're going with it, I have heard that, and I've heard the Luke thing rolled into one. Actually, so chew on that.
How could she be a Kenobi and a Skywalker? There's a Luke and an Obi-Wan thing. That goes into a really LGBT direction.
Yeah, no, they're saying that Obi-Wan had a kid, a daughter that Luke hooked up with, and that makes Rey Obi-Wan's granddaughter and Luke's daughter.
I did not see that part of it.
That just shows how bad our thought patterns are that we didn't even process how normal that is, that we just instantly went to. That's screwed up.
We went to the Obi-Wan and Luke hookup angle.
I was so hoping this was going to be a family show too.
Oh my gosh, that
still
says a lot about us.
Kids don't listen to the first 10 minutes of podcasts anyways.
Well, they'll be listening now if they hear that crap.
No, they won't.
It's only our second show. No one's listening to the first 10 minutes or anything that comes thereafter.
Yeah, well, let's hope they are. Let's hope there's people out there to be offended, I guess. I don't know. But no, I really like the concept of Rey potentially being a Kenobi instead of a Skywalker, because I think it opens up something that's a lot different than it has been. Because the movies so far have just been a Skywalker story. There's Anakin, there's Luke, and that's Darth Vader, obviously, and
Kathleen Kennedy said as much.
Yeah, and to turn it on its ear, I think it opens up such a huge range of potential storylines, because I mean the very first question you have to ask is, well, wait a minute, who did Obi-Wan hook up with when he's supposed to be the quintessential good guy Jedi?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Okay, so the fan theory is that she's a Kenobi. How?
Granddaughter.
So that's the whole extent of the fan theory.
It would actually be cool if they do say that she is a Kenobi, and then that story is essentially covered in the. And again, I told you yesterday, AJ, I'm still going to call them anthology movies. I don't care what they're called anymore.
I'm with you.
That it would give us something to look forward to for the Obi-Wan possible trilogy. If you knew that Rey came from that bloodline, you're like, wow, that story could be explained. So instead of it being a standalone story, you can almost connect it to the new trilogy and everything too. It would actually be really fun. And honestly, maybe it's a reason, or maybe it's because I'm not a big Luke Skywalker fan. I feel like Rey would be a lot cooler if you found out she was a Kenobi as opposed to a Skywalker.
I agree, and I think the main reason that I really like the possibility of her being a Kenobi as opposed to a Skywalker is that if you're going to make her a Skywalker, Episode 8, you're going to mirror that, Luke, I am your father thing. Instead, it's going to be Rey, I am your father. I mean, it's just going to rehash something we've already seen. And
especially with people talking about the rehash that 7 was of 4. Now,
exactly.
if you bring 8 up and you rehash Episode 5, essentially, you're just asking for it at that point.
Yeah, and that's my concern. And I think if you come out and say, okay, well, Luke can come out and say, well, my mentor was Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are Obi-Wan Kenobi's granddaughter. Us being huge nerds, like, we read that kind of stuff, but I think the less hardcore fans that might not, read the sorts of things on the internet and do the research that we do, that's just going to hit them like a ton of bricks. Like, what? What the heck?
I'm still not understanding how this theory plays out, though. Did someone actually theorize the connective tissue that would explain how Rey or why Rey might be Obi-Wan's granddaughter, or are they just tossing out names because they want to, I don't know, stir up the pot?
No, they're just saying that it would be a different direction to take it rather than her being a Skywalker, because the easy way out is to say, oh, you're Luke Skywalker's kid. But to do it as, she's a member of the Kenobi line completely throws things on its ear, because instead of, it's kind of like a reversal of Episode 4. It's like, Ben teaching, a Kenobi teaching a Skywalker. Now it's a Skywalker teaching a Kenobi. And basically, Obi-Wan started the whole balance of the Force thing in motion with Luke, and now it's actually going in the opposite direction to get it back. So it actually, it wasn't so much a just throwing names out there thing. It was I thought it was a really, really good idea, because, like I said, it takes the story out of that linear progression that they're in right now of just repeating stuff that's already been there. That hasn't been done yet. And like Steve made an excellent point where you can then make an Obi-Wan Kenobi story, because you even said you read that Kenobi book, and it really was kind of like, okay, whatever. It wasn't great. But if you say, hey, Rey, you're Obi-Wan's granddaughter, well, then all of a sudden you go, well, what? How did that happen? And then you can open up Obi-Wan's backstory, and then you've got more stuff to tell. And there's a lot more depth to that backstory.
The theory that I read was basically Obi-Wan, who we know essentially went into hiding, when he changed his name and everything, and it was...
Apparently he must have went into a few other things, too.
Yeah, like they're
Right?
saying that he kind of just, when he left, Anakin for dead, he just kind of disappeared and just decided not to follow the Jedi path anymore. He was Ben Kenobi. There was nobody that was Obi-Wan, so he went somewhere and he started life over and, started a family, whoever that may be, and, raised down that bloodline. And it was a very simple fan theory, but it was one that you could kind of read and go, yeah, like, I could see that happening, because Ben/Obi-Wan, changed his life for how many years between Episode 3 and 4? A whole mess of things could have happened with him basically trying to live like a normal human being instead of a Jedi for that whole time.
I think it was the most realistic fan theory we've seen, because I don't think the whole Rey is a Skywalker thing is a fan theory. I think that's what everyone is already primed to see. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people were waiting for that line before
Yeah.
the credits rolled in episode 7. Honestly, I sat there and thought it was coming.
Yeah, I just I think it's again the most realistic one because you can actually see it happening. It's not like those other things where Snoke is actually Vader and all these other fan theories that you can tell are just complete crap. This one actually really on paper sounds like it could be pretty legitimate.
I read one earlier today that someone said Snoke was Mace Windu and tried to make valid points of it. And I sat there and read it because it was almost like a car accident, how you don't want to look at it, but at the same time you can't look away.
Do people realize how stupid those things are? Like, it's not Mace Windu. I mean, if it was going to be Mace Windu, he would look like Mace Windu.
Well, it's because nobody showed him die in episode 3, so he could be Snoke now. Like, really, that was honestly the key point of this person's argument was, well, we don't know that he died.
Yeah.
All right.
I understand that, but okay.
Well, you didn't see Han Solo's body hit the bottom of the chasm either, so
Exactly.
maybe he fell into a pillow of marshmallows and just crawled his way out. And this is actually ancient, decrepit Han Solo talking to his son later in life through time travel.
Well, now wait a minute. I'm hoping that Han Solo's alive, so
I was thinking today that they just go with the Clone Wars angle, and in episode 8, Han has robotic legs and
spider legs.
It crawls out of the hole, and
He's got a giant hole in his middle. He just rerouted all of his organs and crap around the hole.
Did you see that meme on the internet with the "Who wore it better"? With the picture of Qui-Gon with the lightsaber through his chest, and then the picture of Han with the lightsaber through his chest. It just said, "Who wore it better?"
I didn't see that one. I did see, kind of a sidebar, but I did see an awesome decal on somebody's truck. My buddy sent me a picture. I guess there's somebody driving around in their SUV, and they put this huge decal on the back window that says Han Solo dies in The Force Awakens.
Oh, that is just cruel.
I was like, that's
That
the
is just
ultimate
so cruel.
troll. That's the ultimate troll.
That's such a turd move, but at the same point, I'd pull up next to him at a red light and
I'd give him the slow clap. I would too. That would be phenomenal. But yeah, no, I like the direction that this can take the storyline if she's actually a Kenobi rather than a Skywalker, because again, I think if you just take the easy road and go she's Luke's daughter, then all of a sudden episode 8 is just turning into episode 5 again. And all the complaints that people have, myself included, that episode 7 is a lot of episode 4 rehashed, it's going to happen all over again. And that would just suck.
And that would probably happen early in the movie too. And if that does, you're gonna be stuck sitting there, essentially with kind of an attitude about it, because you're already gonna be sitting there going, "All right, they're already pulling from episode 5."
Yeah.
And I don't think you want that. I think the money way to do it is to put her in the Kenobi line, like you said. It's not even lobbing a softball to call her a Skywalker. That's putting it on a t-ball tee.
Yeah,
And that's,
exactly.
That's just way too easy and way too lazy for them to try to pull that card.
Exactly.
I hate this theory. I hope they don't go dragging the Kenobi line into it. There is no Kenobi line. There's just Obi-Wan. And he doesn't really have that much of a backstory to begin with.
But don't you think? But that's what this would create. Would be a backstory for Obi-Wan that
And
you
they
don't
already
have.
said they're going to make those anthology movies. At least
No.
one.
No. The third anthology movie is, I want to say confirmed, but it's a Boba Fett movie.
Okay.
I thought they had rolled that in with the Han Solo story.
Nope.
Yeah, we've seen numerous pictures. I don't know which ones are real and which ones
Yeah.
aren't anymore.
But
We're
yeah,
gonna see them all anyway. Who cares? No, I'm sorry, audience. Just so you know, I am one of the few people that does not care about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I thought that character had no depth or nuance to him whatsoever through the prequels, through the Clone Wars. Clone Wars did a better job than the prequels did because they had more time to explore the character. But still, he's that pure, sterile Jedi with no, like I said, no wrinkles to his character to make him interesting. So all this hype about like a potential trilogy and all this other stuff, I don't want more Obi-Wan. I've had too much of him already.
but he represents what a Jedi is supposed to be. That's the whole point of the character.
No,
because if you're talking about Jedi being the good guy and the Sith being the bad guy, I mean, I think that's what they did in Episode 4. Was Obi-Wan Kenobi was just purely good, and Darth Vader was just purely bad. I mean, that kind of set the table for. It was the basis of what each of those characters were supposed to be. That's why you have the different kind of Jedi in the prequels and stuff like that. You know, and you've got Qui-Gon kind of being, you know, an outsider, like kind of, you know, going to the beat of his own drum and whatnot. And then, you know what I mean? And then, you know, they took Vader in a direction where he shows a little bit of empathy, and then they replace that with the Emperor, who's just purely evil.
No, that's where Obi-Wan sucked. This is something that I will debate you on all night long if you want. It's already late and we can stay up till 3 a.m. I don't care. Qui-Gon was the true Jedi. Qui-Gon was the guy who got it. He was talking about the living force and being more interested in doing the right thing than in having the right doctrine. And Obi-Wan was the one who was always talking about, if you would just follow the rules, you would be on the council. And Qui-Gon's like, I don't care about being on the council. I care about doing what's right. Obi-Wan was more interested in doing whatever the council and the ruling body of the Jedi organization said was the thing to do. And as the prequels illustrated, they didn't know what the hell they were doing. They had gotten way off their own path.
But that's what Jedi are supposed to be, is like, they set out the Jedi doctrine, and then they follow it. That's what a Jedi's supposed to be. That's what Obi-Wan was. He was the preeminent Jedi. So I don't think you could say Qui-Gon would be like, that's what a Jedi is supposed to be, because then you'd have a bunch of a-holes running around.
For a lover of the prequels, how could you miss that one of the overriding stories of the entire thing was that the Jedi had lost their way and were so mired in their own procedures that they had lost sight of what they were supposed to be doing?
Well, I guess you could look at it that way. I kind of more see it as they got away from their own doctrine. That's why, you know, Yoda says in episode 2, you know, arrogant and, you know, a flaw more and more common. You know, the Jedi became flawed because they weren't, you know, on the straight and narrow like they were supposed to be, which is what Obi-Wan was doing. That's the way I took it.
Well, we can have an entire conversation about this. I want to stick with the fan theory part of it. I just found that Obi-Wan was so often just that pure voice of good that there's really nothing there to explore.
He was very 1987 Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
He was the perfect good guy.
But don't you think that now saying, okay, Rey is his granddaughter, don't you think that puts a little bit of that gray area into the character and that doubt of he was purely good, and it adds depth to him? Because you go, wait a minute, you know, maybe he did hook up with somebody, or, you know, or they could say, well, maybe he mastered midichlorians and hadn't said he, you know, created a kid like, you know, like Sidious did, or, you know, which was the inference with Shmi Skywalker. But I mean, I think that's why I like this, because I mean, given your outlook on Ben Kenobi as a character, this, you know, kind of paints him in a different light. If you say, wait a minute, I thought you were supposed to be that, you know, pure 100% good Jedi, and here you are hooking up with chicks. Like, I mean,
when you go back and watch episode 4, it would totally make you look at Ben Kenobi as a different character, essentially, knowing what you would know.
Maybe he was going to Mos Eisley all those years just to pick up chicks.
Yeah, it could have been.
What if Rey is like his granddaughter, but like his wife or whoever he hooked up with was just some massive space whore?
Yeah, maybe when Luke's like, well, I could take you as far as Anchorhead, and in Kenobi's mind, he's like, don't go there. I've been there.
Anchorhead. I got. Anyway, we need no.
We're wanted men.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's like, me too.
Yeah.
Why do you think I'm all the way out in the middle of the Dune Sea, man?
Yeah.
I've already been through all those chicks on Tinder.
Back support, man. I'm not allowed in the outer rim anymore.
No, but okay. The reason I think that it doesn't need to be Kenobi is because you're talking about a way to bolster the backstory of Rey and make that interesting. If you're just going to pull it away from being part of the Skywalker family, then it could be any Force-sensitive being in the galaxy. Writing in that it's Kenobi's granddaughter is like C-3PO having to have been built by Anakin.
Well, then who's it going to be?
It could be anyone Force-sensitive, and it wouldn't make a difference. So throwing Kenobi in there is just name-dropping for the sake of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just think that for the general audience, they would have a hard time buying it. I mean, people like us would buy it. Like, oh, you're the daughter of a Jedi that no one knew about. Okay,
exactly. Somebody that you're gonna have to Wikipedia while you're watching the movie to figure out. Oh, okay. That's who it is.
You're Kiadi Mundi's kid. You know, like we would be okay with it, but the average person that's just going to see Luke Skywalker, kick ass with a lightsaber is going to go, what the hell is that?
Well, that's my point. If she's not a Skywalker, then it doesn't matter who her family is.
I kind of think it does, though, because it makes the story more powerful if you say, if you bring something. I agree with you. I want to make that clear. I agree with you, but there's also a flip side of that where I think it makes the story more powerful to say you're a Kenobi. Where this is coming from.
This is coming from the fact that Daisy Ridley was allowed to keep her British accent when
that was part of it.
Yeah, and John Boyega is just as British, but had to put on an American accent for Finn's character. So they're like, well, wait a minute, she's got a British accent, and no one else has a British accent who's a good guy, pretty much, except for Obi-Wan Kenobi. So accents don't get passed down genetically. So I hate to tell you.
No, I agree, and you're right. I mean, that was mentioned in the theory. I just really think it would be something that they haven't done yet.
I mean, it would be unique. But just because it's unique, maybe it's unique because it wasn't a good idea before, and it's still not.
Like you said, it's name dropping. So saying she's a Kenobi is taking an easy road, but saying she's a Skywalker is a way easier road.
Yeah, that's just too close to Episode 5.
Maybe she's a Palpatine because Palpatine has an accent too.
That'd be out of left field.
What's his name? Sheev?
Sheev, yep.
Boy, wouldn't that be something? She's actually a Sith descendant instead of what
I actually kind of like that.
That'd be great. By the end of Episode 9, she's running around with a lightsaber bow staff that's red.
Right. Well, I mean, what if that's the thing? Like, she was at Luke's academy too, but she was actually a descendant of a Sith, whereas Kylo Ren was descendant, from a Jedi. And it's like totally flipped on. It's not like, oh, she was the good guy, he was the bad guy. It's like, no, she was the bad guy, and then all of a sudden here she is. She was too young to remember or something. But then you get into the whole, why doesn't she remember being at the Jedi Academy? So
see, now my mind's just going crazy with the whole like maybe she's a Palpatine thing, and I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe they could actually do this whole storyline that kind of echoes the prequels, where by the end of this trilogy, Kylo Ren is now the hero and Rey is now the villain.
Put it on the internet.
Yeah.
Put it on the internet.
I thought about that. I'm like, that would really flip it on its ear.
We've read so many ignorant fan theories that thing would pick up steam so quick. Do it.
Hey, we need clicks. I'll write it up for our website.
Exactly.
Exactly.
NerfHerderCouncil.com.
Yeah. That's right. We didn't really plug that last week, did we?
No.
Although it's in the outro, so I guess that counts. But yeah, I don't know. Of all the things that I've read, maybe for me, I'm just excited about the possibility of that being where it's going, just because I am so afraid of Episode 8 going down the Episode 5 road. Because I gotta say, after Episode 4, Episode 7 being so close to Episode 4, that was my main complaint. I was like I said, in our previous episode, that I really wanted them to take chances, and I don't think they really did. And if they go and do that again, I'm actually going to legitimately be pissed. That's really gonna that's gonna really make me have a severe problem with these new movies if they're just, hey, here's Empire Strikes Back again. Okay, I get it. Like, everyone liked Empire Strikes Back, and you just want everybody to go spend another $1 billion. Like, I get it.
Because, like I said last week, it's something that needed to be done essentially. But yeah, I'm not completely on that. They stole the whole idea from Episode 4 thing. But yeah, if we go in next year and watch Episode 8 and that thing is a complete Episode 5 ripoff, like, it's going to track backwards to 2015. You're going to go, yeah, they obviously did it with 7 because they did it again with 8, and yeah, it's not going to be very good for them. It's going to sell, but
yeah,
it's not going to be good for the look, I guess, of the new trilogy.
Yeah,
if they go that route.
I mean, it's already going to be hard for them to get past being the second act of a trilogy, because that's, to quote Lawrence Kasdan, he said that's when everything goes to hell, and is usually the best act in a play, because the good guys won in the first one, and it's a trilogy, so I got to have the bad guys win the next one, so that the third one sets up that ultimate battle of who's going to come out on top.
And Boyega said 8 is supposed to be pretty dark too.
Yeah, he said it's a lot darker.
It's already mirroring what you said of the bad guys getting the upper hand by the end of Episode 8 for a big good guy revolution in episode 9 kind of thing.
Exactly. And so you have to have that plot twist, and just saying that, oh, you're the daughter of a Force user. Well, then you know what you have to do? You have to explain why she's so special and why she's the focal point if she's just the daughter of any old Jedi. Which is, I mean, then you have to have all this other backstory exposition, which, again, another topic for another podcast, but they're already doing this stupid crap where, you know, they're showing stuff in the movie and you have all these questions. Oh, but if you read the novelization and if you read the children's books, then it'll explain it for you. I mean, you have to go to like 4 different sources to get the full story, which is, that annoys me, but for some people really dig it. That's fine. I'm not that big of a fan. But
AJ and I talked about that yesterday. The casual Star Wars fan is going to watch TV and they're going to watch the movies. They're not going to go grab the comic books and the novels and everything like that. So
yeah,
having a conversation like we did through text the other day, talking about the stormtrooper with the crazy riot baton.
Yeah.
You know the story already. For people like me that are not searching that stuff out, I only see that for what it was in the movie, and you go, you felt like you knew Finn and that trooper knew each other, but you don't have any backstory, so who knows? But obviously they do because it's popped into the novels. But like I said, the casual Star Wars fan, so what, 8 out of 10 people are probably not going to know that. It's going to be the uber nerds that know it, or it's going to be people like us that stumble upon it through fan theories on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, and then you go, oh, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, I want to hang on that for a second, actually, the whole traitor, TR-8R, whatever they call that guy. Now, as you said, there's a backstory behind that. Now, there's the two problems I have with this whole, like, covering all the bases in multiple media forms thing. That scene doesn't make a lot of sense in the movie. It's cool. It looks awesome, but it makes no damn sense. Unless you have that backstory piece. And then you can figure out why this dude decided to throw down all his regular weapons and fight this guy hand to hand and called him out as being a traitor when no one else seemed to give a shit. So you got that issue. And second, do you want to actually like have to worry about anything you see in a movie that doesn't make sense and then have to go and find out, online or wherever else you may look it up, that, oh, wait, okay, if I read this comic book, then that scene does make sense. Like, they've got that problem of having to create enough dangling threads that they can pull on them in other forms without having a movie or a script that's completely shot through with holes.
Well, see,
Good response. Good response.
See, I don't want to come off as negative because I don't want to be like crapping all over Star Wars in this respect, but I'm not a fan of like all this backstory stuff. It's like it's so much exposition that they're providing through other avenues other than the movie, and it's just agitating. Like you said, we texted about it the other day. Like, well, let's talk about where TR-8R comes from, and I said I already know, and it was on Yahoo. Mm-hmm. I mean, it said that he was in the Stormtrooper training program in a outfit with Finn, and they had a run in, and so he knew Finn, and he was trained with the the anti-lightsaber baton. What I don't know what the weapon's called, and and I said I knew that it uses the same plasma technology. And it said, and almost all those articles do, that it's in the novelization of the movie, and I've seen that so often, and it just drives me nuts because everyone's going, well, like the R2-D2 thing. Well, why is R2-D2 in low power mode? And then all of a sudden at the end of the movie, oh, by the way, I've got all the maps and stuff. Well, it's explained in the novel. Like, I mean, okay, you can't use that as a fallback to just show part of the stuff and in the movie and then go, well, if you go read the book, you'll get the rest. I mean, because not a lot of people are going to do that. Even me, as big of a Star Wars fan as I am, I don't want to go read the whole book. I know the story. I mean, I shouldn't. I can't say that I don't want to. I just think you shouldn't have to make people to get answers go into another medium because a lot of people aren't going to do that.
Right. You don't want to feel like you're getting an incomplete story by going to watch a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And part of the fun of Star Wars is always covering fan theories and where we think we're going with all this, and essentially closing the gaps ourselves through conversation. And it's, again, another conversation AJ and I had of they're painting every corner now. So we can't even... the way they're working it now, we're not going to have a podcast for very long because you're not going to be able to theorize
Right.
anything because we won't be able to talk about it because we'll just be getting emails left and right of, oh no, they covered that, they covered that, they covered that. There's going to be no room for trying to think of anything on our own.
On page 22 of Kanan, the Last Padawan, they clearly state that the Kyber crystal is actually 2 centimeters long.
Right.
That's when we just cuss back at them, call it EU garbage.
Right.
We don't listen to your kind. Get out of here.
Suss out tricky bitch like you. Now get the hell off our land.
Spock sucker.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the other stuff that I've read that, like, they explained the R2-D2 thing. They explained the whole Hosnian system thing, which was totally glossed over in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the movie, it came across as, okay, I mean, they had one reference to the fact that, it's the Senate and, the home system of the Republic. And they mentioned it once, and then all of a sudden, the First Order's blowing up all these planets, and people are like, all right, it's like Alderaan. Not really. That's the seat of the entire government that exists.
Yeah, you just wiped out the entire government.
Yeah.
Because Alderaan was one planet, and they blew up 5 of them.
Right.
So it's different.
But, I mean, yeah, you have to go in the book to realize that, those people that were on the balcony watching, the laser come into the planet, that was the main hub of, the Galactic Republic, the renewed Republic. I mean, those people were really, really important, and it never came across like that in the movie because it got cut out or they just glossed over it. But in the book, it goes into detail, so And I'm like, that's something you got to put in the movie. I mean, I almost feel like if they're going to have these novelizations and have the explanation, it kind of takes away from the movie because it's an easy way out. It's in the book. You can find it there. We don't got to put it in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's stupid. Like, I mean, because again, the people that aren't going to read the book aren't going to know how important that really was. I mean, it wasn't just, oh, this is a display of how powerful Starkiller Base was. No, they just destroyed the whole damn government. So now basically all those people in the Resistance and that, on Dakar, which, looks like Yavin 4, the name of the planet's Dakar, that's all that's left. I mean, that's all that's left to fight the entire First Order. So when we're going into Episode 8, it's pretty dire. I mean, there's not a lot of people there to fight against the First Order.
That's the interesting landscape going into the next movie, and I also wonder how much is going to be explained but in stories between 7 and 8 leading up to it. Because the Resistance is not the Republic. I think that's made clearer in the novelization, but again, they didn't say that at all in the movie. So if you just go based on what's on the screen, you're not going to know. So basically, whatever the Resistance is all that's left. So the entire Republic, and apparently its fleet also was centered around those hub worlds. So all the military might that the Republic had to repel the First Order is gone. And also the First Order themselves, who knows what sort of scale they're at right now, because obviously losing Starkiller was a huge loss for them. There was a ton of stuff there.
Yeah.
But was it all their stuff?
And you never ever saw the Republic fleet. I mean, so you had no idea.
Yeah, we saw 6 X-Wings the whole movie, didn't we?
Yeah, and it was all Resistance stuff. It wasn't, they didn't show anything of, there's tons of spaceships and stuff. So it was actually kind of a fair fight against the First Order until they blew everything up.
What I've heard, and again, we'll get plenty of emails to clarify this. I thought my understanding is that the Republic and the First Order, it's kind of like a Cold War situation, where yes, they both have the means, but they're politically not at war yet. they're adversaries, but they're leaving each other alone for the time being. And when Snoke decided to use Starkiller on the entire system, that was the first act of violence against the Republic that the First Order had taken.
The way that I understood it was that the Republic and the Senate were, it was basically like it was the beginning of Episode 4, where the Republic and the Senate was the hub of the galaxy, keeping everything together, and so that's what the Republic is in this one, and then the Resistance is fighting the rise of the First Order. So it's the big entity is the Republic, and the two smaller entities are the First Order, which rose from the Empire, and then there's the Resistance, which is specifically like freedom fighters fighting against the First Order to try and protect the Republic.
Right, but the Resistance is not the Republic. They're not officially recognized or sanctioned by the Republic.
Leia's kind of like a, if I read right, Leia's kind of like a radical member of the Republic. So she's kind of basically doing exactly in Episode 7 what she was kind of doing at the beginning of Episode 4, which was like get a band together to fight the big evil, First Order. So, but again, I mean, these are things that could have been in the movie to clarify the story a little better, but instead they're putting it in a book.
You think they were a little gun shy based on the backlash of the prequels having too much political garbage in there? That they wanted to stick more to the action story and not so much on the larger scale events of the galaxy?
Yeah, very much so. That makes a lot of sense. It's just there's certain aspects of the story that they could have done better with, I think, because it needed to be said. And I think, again, my main complaint is based on the fact that I don't think people really understand the gravity of the situation that the Resistance is really in, because they didn't really show how important the Republic was and how big it was, so that they mentioned, we lost the fleet and now most of our fleet's gone, that blue dude or whatever, and so they didn't really make it clear that this is a big deal. I mean, you're going, like I said before, not to repeat myself, but you're going into Episode 8 with this a little bit of the Resistance against all of the First Order. I mean, it's pretty extreme.
That was one thing that they really did a misstep on in Episode 7, was we never saw the Republic. We have no idea what that was like. It apparently was there for 30 years after defeating the Empire at the Battle of Endor, and now it's gone again. So whatever new government was in place, whatever rose from the ashes, is already gone, and we never saw it. So there's either going to have to be a TV show about that or something else to explain why we should care about the Republic that we never saw. Yeah,
it almost cheapens the Republic in a way, because you're like, okay, well, we heard about it, but they got blown up, whatever. Like,
right. The Republic existed for 28 minutes, as far as we know.
Right. So basically, it was almost 1 minute for every actual year that it existed. 1 minute of screen time.
All we know about the Republic is they can stand still and watch bright lights fly towards them before they die.
Like the dude in Monty Python. Hey.
How many Bothans do you think were in the Hosnian system? Did many Bothans die to bring us that information?
I'm sure they did.
Maybe they were all wiped out trying to get the Death Star plans. And
that'll be covered in Rogue One, won't it?
No, technically not the Death Star plans. It was actually the second Death Star plans. I should have clarified. But
okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
Now we're good.
Do you think they will have Bothans in Rogue One? Like, maybe Bothans were along. Like, what if Bothans were just like the biggest of the galaxy? Like, they're just, they have these horrible missions where they just gotta, everyone's gonna die, and they're like, send in a shitload of Bothans, like, that's what they were for. They were just like the donkeys of the galaxy.
Right, they're the most disposable species anyone could find.
It's like a bunch of pack of burros or something. Like, just send them in there to
you
take
mean
a
above
beating.
the Gungans?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if Rogue One, like, that was the actual storyline, that the Gungans actually stole the Death Star plans after being completely worthless in Episode 1? They're completely redeemed by the fact that they actually set the whole destruction of the Empire in motion.
Honey, Misa got the plans. Misa blow up Death Star. Lots of people gonna die.
It's just a bunch of
warriors.
but a bunch of Bothans and Gungans running around stealing crap in a jungle in Rogue One.
If that's the case, I'm going to watch about 30 minutes of it before I leave the theater.
I'm going to sit there enthralled, being like, "This
I'm
is
tapped.
the most yeah."
I'll see you guys at the bar.
This is the ballsiest thing I have ever seen.
You just get up and slow clap at the end. Well
Right.
played, Disney.
Boss Nass at the end, he just walks to the princess like, "We sind gotten de Planzer."
And closing credits.
That would be fantastic. Now, would he have to step in poodoo right before he hands it to her?
Of course.
Whoa, Misa step in poodoo.
We got to keep this stuff quiet. We got to put a trademark on this before Disney tries to take it from us.
Exactly.
Yeah, we just wrote half of Rogue One for him.
There's somebody sitting at Disney right now. Squash the plans.
Yeah, can we get a whole new cast in there?
Hey, Bob. Yeah, Bob. We got a new plan. We're Rogue One. Yeah, all new script. Immediate reshoots. Yeah, get the A and B teams back. We got the story.
Get Lucas in his green screen. We got work to do.
I was just about to go to the George Lucas replacing everybody with CG characters around.
How many
It's
Dougs
like an
can-
Eddie Murphy movie. There's one person doing everything.
Right? So do you think they would make the Bothans as worthless in Rogue One as they made the Klingons in Star Trek Into Darkness?
Ooh, well, if we're going to follow the J.J. Abrams path, you're going to have to use all the same story elements again in a different order and make them look stupid. So, yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Maybe they'll get Benedict Cumberbatch to be John John, what's his nuts? Maybe he'll be the big baddie introduced in episode 8, actually.
What role will Simon Pegg play in all this, though?
Oh, that guy. Don't get me started.
Maybe that's how the ship gets destroyed in Star Trek Beyond, is it's actually one of the stray bolts from Starkiller Base that just took it out.
Isn't it a good thing that JJ's not doing episode 8? Because if he took episode 8 and did what he did with Star Trek Into Darkness, he'd basically be, it would be, Ray, I'm your mother. He would just take plot points from the movie and switch them around and like, hey, look, it's a new movie. No, it's not, damn it, it isn't. This is the same damn thing I already saw. Like, that would suck so bad. We have to go find my black friend on Air City. Damn it! Just completely rehashed everything and changing the names and everything. That'd be awful. Just awful.
You got to change all the lines, too.
Right?
Why did you come here?
Have a little puppet that's talking backwards. But just have him be like a different character, like that's Lando Calrissian. Just change it around.
Where do you think Finn's going to be in episode 8?
Well, he did say his role is a lot more physical, so we're going to see him fighting a lot more, I would assume.
Fighting to walk again?
Well, dude,
He took a lightsaber to the spine.
well, we don't know.
The worst part is that he ruined Poe's jacket.
Yeah, really, that was a sweet jacket, man.
Poe loved it.
I think that was a running gag through the whole movie, actually. I noticed this. I noticed this on my last viewing. This is why you need to see it at least 5 times or more. That jacket, I think, was a running gag through the whole movie. Because that jacket managed to get on Poe, on Finn, and Rey. All the main characters wore that same jacket at one time or another.
It's the updated version of Han Solo's clothes.
Yeah.
Dude, when you said he took a lightsaber to the spine, all I could think of was Monty Python. 'Tis but a scratch. It's only a flesh wound.
I could have been a Jedi, and then I took a lightsaber to the spine.
What was it? Have you been injured by a jelly? Like, Robot Chicken.
Bob Goldstein. At last we will have our revenge. So for anyone who hasn't seen the Robot Chicken Star Wars episodes, go watch them on YouTube. They are glorious.
Oh, highly, highly recommended. No, Finn,
that was money. I can't get over that. That was perfect.
those in the Family Guy Star Wars are just gold mines of like quotes. But no, I was actually thinking about this, what they're going to do with Finn, and it almost seems like, I mean, he and Poe, I think, are going to kind of have to fill that Han Solo void, because you have to have that character that's not the Force user but is like a total badass. So I think that might be the direction they kind of take him. And especially considering he's so anti-First Order, I would think that he would probably be the guy that really gets hardcore into the Resistance, and he's really fighting, and he's all for the cause and all this kind of stuff. So that's what I would. That's what I would.
Especially since they made him a little scared, when they're talking to Maz and everything. He was ready to run instead of fighting anything, and so yeah, I kind of see Episode 8 him really embracing that role of really trying to be the head, essentially, of all this, trying to lead the group for everything he knows about the First Order, and taking a really big role in the Resistance against all of them.
I didn't see anything in Episode 7 that would illustrate where the character could go. I mean, he was trained as a stormtrooper, but he doesn't have any particular skills that are of use to the Resistance. His knowledge of Starkiller Base was handy, but that's about it. So he's not a leader. He's not really much of a fighter. He chose not to fight until he had a lightsaber and got cornered by Kylo Ren. But otherwise, his choice was always to run away. Like, what good is he? What did he bring to the table that they could build upon in the next installment?
He has Poe's jacket. That's it. And that's all he needs.
It's the jacket, dude. It's the jacket.
Screw the lightsaber.
Yeah, right.
I will say I kind of want that jacket. I wish they would sell one.
They will.
In Episode 12, they're going to rehash 7, just like 7 rehashed 4,
Right.
and they're going to go to some planet, and the box is going to talk to somebody, and they're going to open it, and the light's going to come out, and it's just going to be a tan leather jacket with a huge lightsaber gash in the back of it. It calls to you.
Right. No, I think he's got particular skills. Don't forget they said that the stormtroopers were, trained from birth. Basically, they were taken from their families and trained from birth. So he knows what he's doing. And I don't
as a foot soldier.
Yeah, but so he has the ability to fight. And I don't think that he ran from everything. He ran from killing at first because it was killing innocents. And that's what he was against.
And then things just got too real. I think that's why he was running the second time. He was just like, no, like you don't, he said, you don't know the First Order like I do. They're going to come here. They're going to be 100 to 1 men to us, and we are all going to get slaughtered if we don't get out of here.
Yeah, I was going to say he knew he was going to die. He knew he was going to die. There wasn't, hey, take me prisoner. They're like, no, you're dead.
Yeah, he was a goner. He was going to be the first one on the list, essentially.
Exactly. It was either get the hell out and survive or stay and die. So he didn't want to get cut down, so he took off. But like I said, when he had to fight, and they showed that, to defend Rey, he picked up the lightsaber and started going at him. So, I think there's a lot they could do with him, really. And I think it's the springboard of it is that, your point that he ran. I don't think he ran all the time, but he did run, so you could toughen him up. And so I think that's a good place to start.
They're going to have to give him a better reason to fight against the First Order in the next movie, because he wasn't even really against the First Order in this. He was against Kylo Ren because Kylo Ren was going to be killing Rey. He went back for Rey. That was his motivation. It wasn't him trying to get back at the evil First Order. He wanted to run the hell away from them. When he had no choice but to try to defend Rey, that's when he took up arms.
He had a choice. He didn't have any ties to her, except for they were kind of friends. They'd known each other for like a day.
Yeah, but when he decided to come back was when the First Order invaded Takodana. When they assaulted Maz's castle, that's when he was like, "Where's Rey?" That's how he got sucked into the entire final sequence there.
Well, I think that kind of goes against your point then, because right at the part where he could have just left, and just been completely self-serving, he didn't. So I would take that as a sign of strength in the character, not running all the time.
Right, but I think his only motivation is to make sure that Rey stays safe. He's got a connection to her, not to a larger sense of justice where he wants to take down the First Order.
Do you think they're going to do a love story between Rey and Finn?
I think they're going that way, and man, I hope they don't.
I hope they don't either. That would just be so stupid. It would just be too cliche.
Are we forgetting about the way that Poe looked at him?
They have a love triangle.
There's a bromance there for sure, yeah.
You're my whole world, bro.
He did call him Buddy.
Yeah.
The second time he ever saw him. So I guess I could, I don't know. Like, this is too creepy to think about.
Well, speaking of fan theories, see what your take is on some of these things that are on this website right here.
Oh, boy.
We do a quick rundown here.
Oh, yeah. First one, Rey's ability with the Force is a skill that we've actually never seen before. It's a theory that suggests Rey is so strong with the Force that rather requiring Jedi training, she can simply, quote, reverse engineer vital skills by encountering others who exhibit these powers.
Horrible.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Not entirely horrible.
It
Yes,
would
it
be
is.
it would be a new direction for the Force, and it would definitely go against the
That
whole
would-
you're stealing
No,
from
there's-
Episode 5 kind of thing.
There is some straight-up telepathy going on in Episode 7.
Well, yeah, but for that fan theory to be true, it would totally cheapen the Force. Like, oh, you can just learn it if you're strong enough.
Well-
No, because then how did Anakin not just know the Force?
Well, how did Rey know that there was even such a thing as a Jedi mind trick?
She felt somebody trying to get in her brain, and she was fighting it. It was just a natural reflex.
No, that's how she repelled Kylo Ren. That's
Well, I
not
know
how
that.
she-
I know that, but if you know someone's trying to poke into your brain, if you can feel it, and you like, I don't want you to know this, like you're fighting back.
So how do you know that you can then manipulate that into making other people do what you want them to? I'm telling
Yeah.
you that's what they've intimated with this is there's a degree of telepathy going on with the Force sometimes. We've seen that different Jedi tap into the Force in different ways. And so there's a whole library of abilities that you can tap into, and people have a certain aptitude for one or another. Hers seems to be telepathy, along with Kylo's, further strengthening the family bond.
No. She's a Kenobi, remember?
Right. She's a Kenobi and not a Skywalker at all.
Yes.
Couldn't be both.
So what's the next one?
That Snoke is Darth Plagueis.
Absolute crap. Next. Oh wait.
I would believe that one second to the Rey being a Kenobi one.
I would actually like that to be true because I think Plagueis is a great character and I still love that book, whether it's Legends or not. But
Well, and that's the thing with it being Legends /EU, they don't technically him dying at the hands of Palpatine doesn't exist.
yes. Well, yes. They'd really have to do some reverse engineering on the explanation in Episode 3.
He was so strong in the Force that he could create life, and he kept himself from dying.
Yeah, but no. In Episode 3, remember, Palpatine says his apprentice killed him in his sleep.
Yeah, but he also said he had the ability to keep those he cared about from dying.
But
so he
not
had
himself.
Yeah, but not himself. But how does Palpatine know that?
So you're saying that basically the way they get around that plot hole would just be to say that Palpatine was wrong?
Yeah.
Fooled you.
Yeah, fooled you. No, I mean, it's right there. He said he killed him in his sleep. Okay. But he also said he could keep the ones he cared about from dying. So he had the ability to keep, to save people from death. He said that along with saying he killed him in his sleep. Okay. He killed him in his sleep, but he can keep people from dying. So if he can keep somebody else from dying, he can definitely keep himself from dying. So, I mean, it's right there in one sentence. So that would be plausible. I mean, we just explained it right there. in 60 seconds, we explained why it's possible based on one line in the movie. So obviously other people are going to grab onto it.
We're going to need more trademarks on this paper.
I know. We need writing
We're
jobs.
knocking these out.
I'm telling you, we need writing credits or something.
All right, give me another one. We'll connect the dots.
Yeah.
Kylo runs a double agent.
No.
Boy, is he selling that one hard. He killed his own father.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
You'll love the next one then. Han Solo's still alive.
I want that to be true, but the only way that could be is that he didn't actually, because of the angle they showed it, he didn't actually gore him with it.
Yeah.
It just went his arm.
It was like stage fighting. It's under his armpit.
Yeah, under his armpit. Han just slipped and fell.
It's those damn railings, man.
Yeah.
They got to get railings on the catwalks.
Right? What else we got?
Rey's the daughter of Luke Skywalker, and who?
Mara Jade.
Yeah, got to be.
There
There are no other women in the galaxy.
You think they're going to bring Mara Jade into this thing?
They'll bring a Mara Jade-like character, I would guess.
I think they will, to cater, essentially, because there's so many people that are screaming EU, EU, who wears this character, where's that? I think they might toss a bone and if anything, name dropper.
It is the one character that everyone's, besides Grand Admiral Thrawn, it is the one character that everyone's always wanted to see that's the most popular character in Star Wars that isn't in the movies. So, I mean, and I mean, if you're going to have Luke Skywalker have a daughter, kid's got to have a mom, so they're going to have to do something with it. But, I don't know. It would be serving the EU fans and keep them shut up, but I don't know.
I'm not a fan of most EU stuff, but I do like Mara Jade's character arc. I think that was pretty cool, the way she was an assassin for the Empire and then, just turned.
I agree.
That's a double-edged sword, too. They toss a bone to the EU to try to be nice to them, but at the same point, they do that, and then the EU people come out and they start screaming, "Oh, see? Told you, you're stealing all the ideas from us." And
Right? You can't keep them happy.
You're not going to be able to win regardless.
Hey, that's a proud tradition in Star Wars. Filoni's done that so many times on Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and hey, he did bring back Darth Maul, so I guess it works.
Make enough noise, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Next one is, if she's not Luke's daughter, then she's Han and Leia's daughter and Kylo's sister.
We did talk about that. I could see that happening.
Again, that's another softball. That's one of those ones that you can make it work way too easy, essentially, but it's not going to turn out good.
Yeah.
In the final product.
Well, that basically follows the EU directly then, where they had the
twins.
The kids where one's bad and one's good, and one kills either Luke or Han. I mean, that's that exact story.
How would that have played out with her getting abandoned on Jakku then?
She's obviously a lot younger than Ben. I mean, and that's something they have to answer. If she had previous Force training or knowledge of the Force or something, they showed her at such an age where you would think she would remember something. You can't just go, it's one of those things where it's the traumatic experience in her past and she completely forgot. Like it was a psychological block because it was so traumatic. Like, you can't do that.
Maybe. Well, okay. Let's try to make this work here because it's fun to play the thought experiment. What if? Because how old do you think Rey was in that Force vision when she was left on Jakku?
Probably 5 or 6, I would think.
5 or 6. Okay, so let's say she's 5 or 6 years old, and she gets left on Jakku right after Ben turns to the dark side and destroys the new Jedi Academy. Maybe Han and Leia are kind of pooping themselves at that moment, and they're like, okay, he's evil, he's coming for his family. So they hide his sister on Jakku, so she's out of the way, out of harm's way, and of course by this point Han and Leia are kind of separated on their own anyway, so maybe that's how they justify that and why she wouldn't really remember her brother anyway, because she was too young to remember.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
Yeah, there's ways around all these theories can sound ridiculous and 100% true depending on the way you eyeball all of it.
View, yeah.
From
Exactly.
a certain point of view.
And the last theory on there is that Rey is the second coming of Anakin Skywalker. No father, and mother is nobody special, and she was just the next chosen one.
But yeah,
So who dumped her on Jakku then?
well, then they have to explain who created her.
That was actually part of what they put in the paragraph after that. Is it says, this theory could be this, but that doesn't explain who left her on Jakku then.
and then it brings back midichlorians into the story, which the prequel haters will love.
Yes.
You got to explain that one again. Like, oh, somebody manipulated midichlorians. God bless America. No, like,
No!
yeah.
It's not true!
So, well, all right. Well, seems we covered a lot of ground. So, I think we should probably leave it there for this episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Touched on a lot of cool stuff. Kind of took a little detour here and there, but that's what we're gonna do. So, thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, I'm JT. You can find me on Twitter at DogPoundJedi. You can find the Nerf Herder Council at nerfherdercouncil.com. Facebook.com/Nerf Herder Council. Is that the correct address?
I hope so.
Okay. Well,
Sounds about right.
We're on Facebook.
Go
at
on
Nerf Herder
Facebook
Council.
and just put it in the search bar. You'll
Yeah.
find it.
We do have a Twitter account at NHC Podcast, and we do welcome feedback, be it good or bad, because we are very new at this. So, give us comments, give us feedback, likes, hates, whatever. So,
Spam your friends with our podcast.
yes, promote us. We are attention whores for this sort of thing. So, thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, he's AJ.
At Drake Adams 579.
He's Steve.
At JSteve1005.
And I'm JT at Dog Pound Jedi, and we will catch you next time. See ya.
This bucket of bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus, me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my Nerf herder.
You my Nerf herder.